Alright guys, so finally doing an update on everything I found out about my dad. A lot of things have changed. I have new glasses, I have new hair that I need to recolor, so yeah. I'm gonna try not cry in this one. No promises. So, just to recap, I never grew up with my dad. He was never in my life. I decided late last year that I was going to look him up. Was going to try and find anything I could about either both sides or just the one side. Yeah, I found a lot, to say the least. I found out I found out that my genetics were basically what I thought it was, with a few variations here and there. But other than that, it was basically the same thing that I've always been told my whole life. So, after I took the Ancestry DNA, I decided that I was going to build my family tree. And, of course, the best way to do that is to start with yourself. So I started with myself. And I added my mom, and I added my brother. And then I was like, well, I know that was weird. I know my dad's name. I know his full name. And, I was like, alright, just gonna put that in. I'll probably get nothing. Put it in, and I get a little leaf notification. Now, during that time, I was within the 14 free trial period to try it out. You can get as many documents as you want, all that. I highly suggest doing that just when you're first starting off, because you can find a lot of things. You can find that if your if your parents, or well, not parents, maybe even parents, if your ancestors or anyone in your family was an immigrant, you can find the records, you can find the ships that they came to America in. I found my great-grandparents when they came to America on my mom's side, which was insane because it literally said the name of the ship, when it happened, how old they were. And one thing I noticed with records is that people, specifically the Americans who were making the records, when the immigrants would come in, they of course had broken English. More than likely had broken English. I know with my great-grandparents, or great-great-grandparents, whatever it may be, when they came over, so it'd be 2 times great. So my great-grandmother was 16, 14, something like that, during the record, with what the record says. And they came from Germany because World War I had just ended and they could just probably sense what was coming. So, when they immigrated here, they told them their last name. Now, broken English, you can only say so much, and differing ears hear different things. So, if it's a complicated last name like Sarnowski or Majewski, yeah, the records are going to be kind of skewed with the last name. So you kind of have to go through it, research it, and then you probably be like, oh yeah, they just the census records, there's accents, so people would go and get the census, and it just would be horrible. That's one thing that I noticed with records, is that tended to happen quite a bit. But anyway, back to finding the records with my dad. I put my dad's stuff in, name, because I don't know his birthday, or anything. I just knew a generalized area where he possibly was born, and, yeah. I didn't know really anything else, and really, my cat just knocked everything over, sorry. I literally put in his name, and I got a hit. The hit was from Social Security, noting his death. Which, that was a hard pill for me to swallow. I didn't believe it at first, obviously. Because I was like, his name's very familiar. Not familiar. Popular. So, I decided, alright, I'll add him to the tree. I can always delete him if it's not. There's one surefire way to know if he is my father or not. My middle name was after my grandmother on his side, so his mother. And I added him, and then it brought up his parents, or it brought up his mom. And wouldn't you know it, yep, that's my grandma. That's my grandma. Such a crazy story to tell. But I'm exceedingly glad I looked. So, I went about the whole thing. I dived headfirst. So, as I started adding more and more people to my family tree, I started noticing I was pinging off one person in particular's tree a lot. So, I went and I messaged her, and it's one of those, like, please don't have logged on, like, every 6 months or whatever, and then you'll see it, and I have to wait all this time. Luckily, she wasn't like that. My cousin Renee, which is, it's so weird to think that now, like, I have cousins, more cousins than I have, because I only knew my mom's side. And I contacted her, and she got back to me, and she told me, yeah, not surprising, talk to your Uncle Brian, he knows more, he's a cop, it's just a cop in him, he investigates things. I have an Uncle Brian on my mom's side, so I thought, and I messaged her back, I said, my Uncle Brian isn't a cop, like, my Uncle Brian and my mom's brother? She's like, no, your dad's brother. And I'm like, I don't know literally anything about my dad. Like, I don't know anything. So I was like, do you have his Facebook? Do you have, because thank God for Facebook. Facebook is such an amazing tool now that you can just connect people. It's fantastic. I wouldn't have found any of this out. I wouldn't have found my uncles or anything. So I go about going onto my Uncle Brian's Facebook. I send him a message, and you try and be as delicate as you can with this kind of situation, because you're like, they're gonna read this and they're gonna be like, is this really, like, is she really part of the family, or what's going on, something shisty, so I'm waiting basically for a reply, and I'm hanging out with one of my friends at his place, and it's actually Christmas Eve, And I got a reply back. And my Uncle Brian goes, yeah, it's not surprising. You know, you do look like him, which not the best thing a girl wants to hear is, oh, you look like your father. Thanks. I'm glad I look like my father, you know? Yeah. Anyway, so we proceed to talk for roughly an hour and a half over Messenger. And we found a lot of stuff out. And near the end of that, he told me, hey, I have brothers and sisters. So you have aunts and uncles. They're half aunts and uncles. But they're aunts and uncles regardless. So he tells me, you also have your Uncle John, who is the oldest out of all of us, and he was closer to your dad than I was. Now, one thing you should know is my Uncle John, or not my Uncle John, my Uncle Brian, he was a cop. He's retired, I believe. And my dad was not. My dad was very violent. He was, according to my Uncle John, my mom, everyone I've really talked to, he was very violent. He was very into alcohol. He did drugs. And all that combined is pretty horrible. He abused my mother, and that's why she left with me and my brother. Yeah. That whole spiel. So I proceeded to ask my Uncle Brian, if my Uncle John had a Facebook. Again, thank God for Facebook. He said, yeah, here's his Facebook page, and I sent him a message. So, I waited a little bit, and then I get a reply back from my Uncle John, and he knew who I was right away. I said I wouldn't cry. He treated me with the kindness that I wasn't expecting. Honestly, I was expecting the worst. I was really honestly expecting the worst. But all that I've received is love and compassion from my dad's side. The reason why I'm getting emotional is because as time progressed and we talked more and more, it was April this year, and I got to talk to him for 3 months, and then my Uncle John died. He died a week after my grandfather, my mom's dad, his death his 1 year anniversary of his death. He died exactly a week. That's why I hate the month of April, because a lot of people in my family die in that month. My great-grandparents on my mom's side both died in April. My grandfather on my mom's side died in April. And now my Uncle John died in April. Yeah. That was a hard message to get in the morning from my Uncle Brian. Saying he wanted to tell me first before I saw anything on Facebook about my uncle's death. He died of complications from heart surgery, and honestly, I'm glad that I looked when I did, because I could have never met him, never talked to him, never known him. And every time we interacted, he always would end it with, "Love Uncle John, love you girl, love you, love you," and it sounds weird to say, but every time he told me that, it kind of felt like he was saying it for him, but he was also saying it in place of my father, who just didn't, and never tried to find us, never did anything, except when my mom left him, he went and found another woman and married her and proceeded to have kids with her, and thus I have half siblings. And worked that out for 15 years. So, my Uncle John, him telling me that he loved me all those times, and he was sorry that, and both of them said it, both my Uncle Brian and my Uncle John both told me that they were very sorry that they could not protect my mom or myself or my brother from my father, and that they were both exceedingly sorry for what my dad did. And I accepted that. I now want to build a new relationship with on my dad's side. I want the old bad blood to be in the past. I don't want that negativeness that I've always heard from my mom telling me stories of how terrible that side of the family is. Don't go looking for it. Don't go doing this. Don't go doing that. And everything that I have found has been opposite. Everything that I have found has been amazing and loving and caring, and they want me in the family. They want to know me. They want to know who I am. They want to know who my brother is. They want to know I'm the only child that is looking for anything. I'm the only one. I'm the second oldest out of 5. Yeah, that's another thing. I have 3 half-siblings. I have an older half-brother. Then there's me, there's my little brother, same mother and father. And then my twin half-siblings that were from his marriage for 15 years then. Yeah. But the twins were taken away by Florida State Services, and my brother Matthew would be in his mid-30s, probably. Yeah, about mid-30s. So if you live in Florida, or you know you're adopted in Florida, and you have a twin brother, and you are, according to my uncle, were adopted by a well-off Florida family, yeah, I might be your older sister. You would probably be in the you would probably be in the 20 to like 24-year-old range, around there. So this could also be your story. That's one thing I is my next my next journey is to find my siblings, to reunite all of us, to see how all our lives panned out, to see if we have anything in common from our dad. You know, I knew I had a brother, and I have 3 brothers apparently, and 1 sister. Now, I've always wanted a sister, so that's kind of one thing. And the twins were named Rose and Johnny, according to my uncle. And their last name was Ferry, Ferrry. Yeah. And my older brother's name, I believe, I've been told, was Matthew Decker. Or his mother's last name was Decker. I don't know if it got changed. It probably would have gotten changed because she had him as a teenager in high school. And, probably remarried, and the kid, my older brother Matthew, probably got adopted by whoever she married, so the last name probably changed. That's my next journey. My next journey is to find my siblings. There's 5 of us. Biologically, there are 5 of us. Legally, there's 8. But he adopted 3 of this lady's kids, and then proceeded to adopt, or take custody. I believe it was take custody, not really adopt. One of his adopted child's 3 children. So his grandchildren. Which is crazy to think. Like, I could be an aunt and not even know it. Like, that's kind of crazy. Me and my brother are probably never gonna have kids because we're too scared of not knowing our father's side and everything he was going through. Um, but yeah, overall, that's an overall gist of what happened. I talked to my Uncle John's wife, my Aunt Colleen, and we talked for roughly 2 hours. Funny thing is, her birthday is the day after mine. So, that's hilarious. And she offered to give me some of my Uncle John's ashes if I wanted, which was incredibly kind of her, considering I'm this random person that just joined the family. And yeah. I've talked to his kids. So I have a cousin in Canada. I have more cousins in the Philly area. I have a lot of family, and that's something I never thought I would ever say, because I always grew up very secluded and away from my family. The only family I ever had was a very small family, and that was me, my mom, and my brother. I would say my grandmother, but my grandmother, yeah, it was just me, my mom, and my brother, honestly. So I had a very large, extended family. And now I have even more. But I've never felt that. I've never felt close to any of my other family, besides maybe one of my uncles. Going and visiting 2 years ago was like, it was meeting these new people, and I don't know them. And yeah, I've been told I'm related to them, but it's like meeting a stranger for the first time, and you're like, hey, how's it going? We share genetics. Hey. So, it's weird. It's very weird. I know whenever I decide to have children, I am not gonna have it like this. I'm not gonna have it to where any child I have does not know of any other family that they have. They will actively be in both sides of the family and feel like they have a place. Like people are out there that you grow up with, like, you can go to because they're family. And that's what family's supposed to be. Family's supposed to be that you can go to them with anything. They will help you. And I'm gonna make sure that all of this secrecy, all of this stuff, all of this horribleness that made me not feel like I was important, that I belonged to either side of my family, I'm gonna make sure that ends, because it's not okay. I'm gonna make sure that my child has a healthy relationship with both sides of their family, regardless, just from what I found, just from the fact that I've been told my whole life that my dad's side of the family is crazy, that my dad's side of the family is horrible and horrendous, and you want nothing to do with them. And since I found them, the only thing that I have found is that they love me. And they were sorry. It's okay to be scared if you're going through what I went through. It's okay to be scared when you're first looking into these things, because it's scary. It's terrifying, because you don't know anything. And I highly suggest not doing it as a teenager. Do it as an adult. I'm 28. I'm gonna be actually 29 in 2 weeks. Do it as an adult. So you have comprehension of what is going on. If you're doing it young and you feel like you're ready to do it, make sure you have a support system. I was doing this completely on my own. I didn't have a support system doing this. I was lucky enough that it panned out beautifully and wonderfully, and I was met with so much love, and that we are all moving forward to move past the horrendous things my father did and try and develop a new relationship, to make a new relationship where with a family that I've never known. And I'm also trying to do that with my mom's side of the family, because again, I never knew my mom's side of the family because my mom decided to move halfway across the country to reconnect with her mother and wound up not working, and then she stayed here. And I don't hate it, but I missed out on so many things that should have been in my childhood. And I know that's one thing my mom regrets. But again, that was my story. That is my current story up to date. It's been insane, and I know it's gonna get even crazier probably, because I've made it my plan that I will eventually go meet that side of the family. I'm just seriously lacking the funding right now. I wanted to go on my vacation, which starts next week on Tuesday, or actually Wednesday, but it's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. All because I had to pay off one card. It sucked, but that card's paid off. So probably around next year, and I swear to God, if anybody else dies, I'm gonna lose it. I'm just saying. So, yeah, that was my story. It's been insane. It's honestly been insane. And I actually just told my brother all of it. I just told my brother all of it about 2 weeks ago. And that's how we actually started talking again. Because we hadn't talked for roughly a year. Because we had this big fight. And it was bad. And we didn't talk. And me telling my brother this was good. We have communication now. We are talking. We're back to normal. And so many good things have come out of this, and I can't be any more thankful to Ancestry for their record keeping and finding the records, and it all fell into place so perfectly. And I don't use perfectly very, very often, but it did, and I'm very happy about it. So if anything else happens, I guess I'll see you in another 4 months, because that's apparently how long I'm taking to update these things. So I will see you guys later. Bye.